Hello everybody, my name is Morgan Calnorio, and today I'm going to talk about cellular respiration and photosynthesis. So without further ado, let's get on with it. There are two parts to the light-dependent system, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Here's the thing. Photosystem 2 comes first. Light hits the chloroplasts, which gives it enough energy to launch an electron out of it. Then that electron flies down the electron chain until it runs out of energy. It then goes into another chloroplast. When light hits that chloroplast, the electron gets flung off again. This time, it is used to combine two other things. The Kelvin cycle occurs in the stoma and reduces compounds by adding electrons and storing energy in ADP and ATP. Here are the 4 steps of the Kelvin cycle. A compound called RUBP, which has 5 carbon atoms, has another carbon atom added to it. This is immediately split in half, and now there are 2 3-carbon molecules, called PGA. The now low energy PGA moves down the system. While this is happening, ATP, which is a high energy molecule made from adenosine and 3 phosphates, is split into ADP plus P. And this energy holding it together goes into the PGA. Alongside this process, another compound called NADPH is split up into NADP and H, where there are 2 electrons, and that H are added into the PGA also, making it into G3P. Now, there are 18 carbon molecules in this cycle. To make room, one of the G3P molecules leaves for more complex ones. Now the cycle only has 15 carbon molecules. Another ATP molecule's energy is used to recreate RUGP by the changing of the G3P's molecular structure. And now the cycle can start over again. Glycolosis, which translates to the breakdown of glucose, is the first step in making ATP for animal use. A glucose molecule is broken down by 2 ATP molecules and turned into fructose diphosphate, which splits into 2 G3P molecules. An NAD molecule is then reduced and gains an H molecule from the G3P, and 4 ATP molecules are produced by the G3P, turning into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule. The Krebs cycle preparation occurs on the outside and inside of the membrane of the mitochondria, and it is used to form compounds used in the Krebs cycle. A pyruvate molecule passes through the mitochondrial membrane, where it loses an electron that combines NAD with an H to produce NADH. As this happens, the carbon atom that was attached to the electron is combined with an oxygen to make CO2. After this happens, the pyruvate has been turned into CoA, which is a protein that pulls things into the mitochondria. The Krebs cycle makes the most ATP in the body, but also makes CO2 and NADH. It occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. Acetyl, a 2-carbon molecule, is added to a 4-carbon molecule chain. The 6-carbon chain then loses one of the carbons and makes CO2 and NADH from ANAD. The 5-carbon chain loses another carbon, which this time makes a CO2, NADH, and 2 ATPs. The 4-carbon chain is then rearranged, which makes 2 compounds, NADH and FADH2, which goes back into the cycle. The movement of H plus ions through a membrane to create a side with more than the other, so that ATP can be made. NADH and FADH2 drop off an electron to go down the electron transport chain, which turns them into NAD and FAD. A H plus that came from FADH2 also goes down the electron transport chain. As the electron moves down the chain, they power and unpower pumps that move the H plus through it. Approximately 32 ADP plus P pick up the high power electrons that the FAD had left, turning them into 32 ATP molecules. The low energy electrons are picked up by 2H and O2 molecules to make H2O. If there is no oxygen, then cellular respiration processes are unable to function after the glycolysis process. Here are some ways that organisms get around that problem. After glycolysis occurs, the electrons from NADH go into lactate. Unlike ethanol, lactic acid can be converted back into pyruvate. After glycolysis occurs, the electrons from NADH go into ethanol. The problem with this form of fermentation is that it is irreversible because the CO2 is lost to the atmosphere. Thank you for watching my presentation on photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Adios.